Welcome. Today we are diving deep into one of the most incredible, most profound secrets from the book of Zohar, and that is the story of the very first light of creation. Now, let's be clear, this isn't the light from the sun or a star. We're talking about a spiritual energy so potent, so powerful, it literally contains the blueprint for all of existence. And the story of what happened to it, well, it reveals a cosmic secret about the very nature of good and evil itself. So our story kicks off with this foundational verse. It's the very first day of creation, right? There are no suns, no galaxies, nothing. And into this space, a light is brought into being. And the text makes this one crucial point. It was seen as good. Now, the Zohar tells us that this wasn't just, good like a nice day. This was a statement about its absolute spiritual perfection. It was pure, unadulterated, infinite illumination.
And right away, that brings up the central mystery, doesn't it? I mean, a light so powerful that the sages say it allowed Adam to see from one end of the universe to the other, that's obviously not the light we see today. So what happened? Where did it go? If this thing was so perfectly good, why would it be taken away? And that, right there, is the mystery we're going to unravel today. All right, here's our roadmap for this journey. We're going to break this cosmic secret down into 6 parts. First, we'll define what this primordial light actually is. Then, we'll look at the incredible mystical engineering that made it good. We'll dig into why it was separated from darkness, who it's being saved for, and then, this is fun, we'll use some modern analogies to really get our heads around it before we finally ask the big question, where can we find it today? Okay, so first things first, let's get our terms straight. What exactly are we talking about? In Kabbalistic tradition, this primordial light has a name. It's called the Or HaGanuz, which literally translates to the concealed light or the hidden light. And that name tells you everything. This is the spiritual energy source that came before our physical reality. It's really hard to overstate the sheer scale of this idea. This wasn't just brightness. Think of it more like a form of divine consciousness, an illumination that just completely transcends space and time as we know it. The ancient sources say this was the very light through which the Creator first saw all of creation. And, get this, it's the same light that gave the first human that same boundless end-to-end perception of the universe. Wild. So, let's get into the mechanics. Why was this light specifically called good? It seems obvious, but the Zohar explains that to really understand this, you have to get the cosmic blueprint. You have to see that creation isn't just one thing. It's a dynamic, living system, balanced between 2 massive fundamental forces, what we call the cosmic right and the cosmic left. Okay, so on the right side, we have the force of chesed. Think of it as unbounded loving kindness, pure giving, expansion, just endless flow. Mystically, its energy is associated with the color white. Then on the left side, we have Gevura. This is the force of judgment, discipline, restriction, and severity. Its color is red. Now, you need both to have a balanced world, right? But you have to understand they are fundamentally different, almost opposite energies.
And this brings us right to the heart of its goodness. The primordial light is called kitov, that it was good, for one very specific reason. It came only from the right side. It was pure, unadulterated chesed. According to the Zohar, it had absolutely zero mixture of gevura, no judgment, no severity, no wrath from the left side. It was a unified, 100% pure expression of divine benevolence.
But that very purity, it creates a paradox. Because if this light was so flawless, so perfect, then why was the very next action described in Genesis this? And God divided between the light and the darkness. Why would you immediately introduce division, separation, and concealment into a system that was just declared perfect? It doesn't seem to make sense.
The Zohar explains this as a profound, almost heartbreaking act of protection. See, in a world that's built with free will, an energy this potent could be weaponized. It could be misused by people who choose negativity. To unleash this infinite light on a world that wasn't ready would be totally catastrophic. It would be like trying to plug a tiny light bulb directly into a nuclear reactor. The whole system would just blow out. And here's the most important part. The light wasn't destroyed. It was concealed. The Hebrew word used is ganuz, and that word means to hide a treasure, to put something precious away for safekeeping. So you have to reframe it. This wasn't an act of taking something away. It was an act of preserving it for later. And this verse from Psalms, this is seen as the master key to the whole idea. Ma'rav tuvcha asher safanta lire'echa. How great is your goodness, which you have hidden away for those who fear you. The sages identify this great goodness as the exact same primordial light. And the verse states it plainly. This goodness was hidden away, tsafanta, for a very specific audience, the righteous, those who have the wisdom to fear sin and misuse. So the concealment was an act of cosmic curation. The light became the ultimate reward, this incredible spiritual inheritance, stored away for the tzaddikim, the righteous ones. But it's not just a passive gift they get. Righteousness itself becomes the active process of building a spiritual vessel, a soul strong enough to actually contain and properly channel this intense divine energy without being overwhelmed by it, or worse, corrupting it. Okay, I know this is a hugely abstract idea, so to try and make it a little more tangible, a little more concrete, let's play with 3 modern analogies. Now, none of them are perfect, of course, but they can really help us frame this concept of a powerful, hidden, and access-controlled spiritual energy. Okay, so from a tech point of view, think of the Or HaGanuz as the universe's source code. It's the root operating system. It's way too powerful and way too sensitive for just anyone to access. So what do? You put it behind a divine firewall, and only users with the highest possible spiritual security clearance, the tzaddikim, are granted admin access. Or for you gamers, think of it as the ultimate ability, the ultimate power-up, hidden in the game's code. You can't use it when you start on level 1, you have to play the game. You have to level up your character through good deeds and moral choices, and only after you've mastered the game do you unlock this epic new game plus power. Or if you want a more, let's say, adult analogy, we can think of it in terms of cosmic engineering. The primordial light was like a pure, stable fusion reactor, but the initial grid of creation, it was only built for a much, much lower voltage. So to prevent a system-wide catastrophic overload, this primary power source was taken offline and put into a protected reserve. And from that reserve, it doesn't power the world directly anymore. Instead, its energy trickles into the system through specialized living transformers, the souls of the righteous. So, of course, this all leads to the most important question for every single one of us today. If this incredible spiritual treasure is hidden away, is it just gone forever? Is it completely inaccessible? Or are there pathways? Are there ways for us to connect with it, even in a small way, right here and now? While according to the Zohar and all the major mystical sources, the primary place where the light was concealed was within the Torah itself. It's not just a history book or a law book. It is a multi-layered living system. It's the cosmic blueprint that contains this hidden spiritual energy. The wisdom of the Torah is the vessel for the Or HaGanuz. So the paths to actually accessing it are both incredibly practical and deeply profound. Studying Torah is the most direct way to engage with the light's container. Performing acts of chesed, of loving kindness, literally aligns our own personal energy with the light source on the right side. And through self-refinement and performing the mitzvah, the commandments, we are essentially polishing our own souls, turning ourselves into vessels that can finally begin to perceive and even channel these hidden sparks. And all of this connects to such a beautiful, mystical tradition. It's taught that this light is primarily channeled into the world through 36 hidden righteous souls, the Lamed Vav Tzaddikim, who exist unknown to us in every single generation. They are the living conduits for this primordial goodness. They sustain the entire world through their merit. So when we connect to righteousness in ourselves and others, we are indirectly connecting to this cosmic flow of goodness. So the ultimate takeaway, really, is that this universe-defining light, it isn't lost. It's just waiting. It's waiting to be found, waiting to be revealed. It's encoded in ancient wisdom. It's present in every single genuine act of kindness, and it exists as a brilliant potential inside every one of us. So the only question left to ask is, how will you reveal a spark of that primordial light in the world today? Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.